I was very underwhelmed by the medical system, realizing modern medicine doesn't really aim to heal people. It just aims to keep them sick, keep them dependent on medications, keep them dependent on the system.
My guest today is Dr. Ahmad Ammous. Dr. Ammous is a dedicated internal medicine physician whose innovative approach to healthcare challenges the conventions of modern medicine by prioritizing root cause healing over mere symptom suppression. He has a bachelor's degree in chemistry and earned his Doctor of Medicine from the American University of Beirut before completing his residency in internal medicine at Staten Island University in New York. Disillusioned by the pharmaceutical-centric model of contemporary practice that owns Western culture, Dr. Ammous navigates decentralized practices, including nutrition, quantum biology, and natural medicine, emerging as an advocate for holistic optimization that blends time-tested traditional healing modalities with cutting-edge scientific therapeutics. Through his practice at AmmousMD.com, he empowers patients to achieve vibrant health without the reliance on pills, offering personalized strategies to address chronic conditions and enhance overall well-being, all while fostering an accessible community via free email list for those eager to explore his transformative thoughts. Dr. Ammous shares wonderful insights about decentralized medicine and decentralized money and exposes the profit mills that infiltrate Western healthcare. It is doctors like him that put the oath seriously and puts humanity over profits. And now, my conversation with Dr. Ahmad Ammous. Usually it's just autism, but I'm very fascinated, and I really like the idea of people learning about the profiteering with centralized medicine and centralized banking, because that's heavily involved with autism.
I mean, I have some experience, yes, yes. It's unfortunately the disease that, or a condition that, medicine profits a lot from, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of profit behind autism. Talk about your medical background, your journey, and then, because if I'm not mistaken, you did some residency during COVID times too.
Yeah, so I'm an internal medicine physician. When I was in medical school, I worked so hard to get into medical school. I was very underwhelmed by the medical system, realizing that modern medicine doesn't really aim to heal people. It just aims to keep them sick, keep them dependent on medications, keep them dependent on the system, just so you can maximize the profit that you make off them. And it was really a very hard time for me in medical school because, everything I've wanted throughout my life was to become a doctor. And all of a sudden I realized that we don't really help people. And it was a hard time for me. I thought about quitting many times. Maybe I should just go learn on my own. What's the point of studying medicine if all I'm doing is just pushing toxic pills on people? But I decided to stick to it. I thought having the credential will be helpful on the long run. And I now kind of on my own studied the things that actually help people get better. And I try and help people heal themselves that way rather than through pills and medications.
At what point did you understand what was your training and so forth is not doing any help? And also, what percent of your training, or generally speaking, the medical school training, is false?
It's hard to say what percentage it is, but the entire premise is built on something wrong. So it could be up to 100% of what we're taught is wrong.
Yeah.
The physiology of the body that we're taught, okay, makes sense. But then the principle of things can be fixed by giving a pill, that is just completely false. The entire premise of Western allopathic medicine is that there is some sort of abnormality in signaling in the body. And if you introduce a pill to address that abnormal signaling, you can heal that condition. Well, the abnormal signaling is just a mechanism for the body to indicate that there is an issue somewhere. Like your joints hurt. The issue is not the pain that you're feeling. The issue is that there's inflammation in the joints, and the pain is a signal for you to do something about it. Or if you have bad back posture, your back hurts, the disease is not the pain. The pain is just an indicator to you that your posture is wrong and you need to fix that. But what medicine does is that it examines that and sees that there's an abnormal pathway in the back or in the knees that's causing this pain. And if we give a medication that just numbs that pain, then that's considered a cure. But in reality, you haven't really done anything to address the root cause.
Yeah. Okay. So if you explain it like that, it doesn't seem that difficult to understand. But the paradigm has such a stronghold on our population that the status quo just keeps remaining. What do you think is the transition out of that?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of understand the system is corrupt, but feel that we're helpless in front of it.
Yeah.
For me, the problem runs at a much deeper level, and the problem is to start with the economic system. So, why is the system corrupt, and why does the system stay in place if it is corrupt? The system continues to be propagated through central control, through the government. The government is supporting the healthcare system and keeping it the way it is. And why does the government have this endless power to do what it pleases? The reason is that the government has access to unlimited amounts of money. And it gets that money not through your taxes. They don't really care about your taxes. They get it through their ability to print money out of nowhere. And this started in the early 20th century when when the Federal Reserve was created, and we went off a hard money gold standard. So that in essence means that all the money that's circulating around, all the US dollars, are just paper bills that are backed by nothing. And if the government wants to initiate something, wants to initiate a project, they can just print more US dollars. Like you can just print something, a printout from your computer. But does that money have an actual value backing it? No. They're just creating bills that allows them to buy things and make themselves more powerful at the expense of everyone else. So in the case of medicine, government is using this money to empower itself, to empower pharmaceutical medicine against what actually works for people. And so our way out of this system is to opt out and not give them our money and invest in things that don't empower the system. And in my opinion, the best way to do it is through investing in Bitcoin.
Okay. Can you take us back a little bit about the connection between the Federal Reserve and even if you have any information about Rockefeller, like kind of buying medicine? Because it's like those timeframes are very suspicious.
Yes. So the Federal Reserve was officially created in 1913. The major transition in medicine that happened in 1910 with the publishing of something called the Flexnor report, Flexner. Abraham Flexnor was this high school teacher who didn't really have much experience in medicine. He was hired by the Rockefeller Foundation and other institutions at that time in order to create a report to try and standardize the practice of medicine. On paper, it sounds great. We're going to try and standardize everything, make sure everything goes through the right loops, everything is kosher, etc. But what actually ended up happening is Flexner recommended that all medical schools that are not teaching pharmaceutical medicine, all these medical schools be shut down. Okay. So before that, going to a doctor meant you can either go to maybe a naturopath, an osteopath, a chiropractor, a homeopath. All of these were valid physicians, and pharmaceutical allopathic doctors. It was a free market process. You go to the type of doctor that you believed worked for you. With the Flexnor report, all these other fields of medicine were just shut down. And later it was clear that Flexnor had strong ties to the pharmaceutical industry, and this entire thing was funded by the pharmaceutical companies. Why did Flexnor have the power to go and shut down 50% of medical schools? Well, it was because he was backed by the American Medical Association and the US government. And why did the US government become so powerful at that time? Well, because it was around the same time that the Federal Reserve was created, and they suddenly had unlimited amounts of money and unlimited access to power.
If I'm not mistaken, too, they were just kind of pissed off at Teddy Roosevelt, and this was kind of their response.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, I think, yeah. When did you get into the quantum biology aspects, and how?
Yeah, I mean, my major upgrade in health was during medical school. I switched to like a paleo diet. I basically stopped eating processed foods, sugar. I was just eating real foods, meat, fruits, and vegetables. And I felt immediately a lot better on that. I think improving diet can only take you so much that after a while I started, experimenting and trying to understand what is the next level of improving health. And that's when I bumped into the work of Dr. Jack Kruse. And I kind of understood how important our light environment that we live in is. And it might be, as strong or even stronger effect on our bodies than diet.
Yeah, he says that the only difference between us and a tree is we have to frequently eat or regularly eat because we're not rooted into the Earth's atmosphere and receiving all those nutritions. And it makes sense, too, because diets are very inconsistent for the most part. They're kind of ebb and flow with people. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I just recently, or this morning, I saw a post about the Surgeon General in 1902. I'll just see if I can pull it up. About talking about red light as medicine. And it was very fascinating to me. That's not pulling up. I don't know if I can show it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Blue light and red light as medicine. And it's from the Office of the Surgeon General.
Yeah.
So why do you think... Can you just take me through why light is more important than the food in your estimation?
Yeah, it's as important or more important. And the reason is it's actually quite a fundamental issue in our understanding of the body, that it's a shame that nobody in medicine talks about it, that it's such a fringe theory. But the way your body makes energy, it doesn't actually make energy from food. If you look at the amount of energy that you make from food, from this process called ATP synthesis and ATP breakdown, it's nowhere enough to generate all the energy that your cells need. So what does your cell actually use to generate energy? Well, it uses light that acts on melanin. Melanin is not just a compound that gives us the skin color, the skin tan. It's actually a compound present in each and every cell of our body. And melanin uses light energy to break down water into electrons and protons. And this generates an electric current that powers every function in the cell. So this is how powerful light is. Light is the energy source of the cell. Food only acts as a backbone, as sort of biomass, in order to generate things regenerate the cell. If you want to make more cells, if you want to make a cell membrane, if you want to make a new tissue in the cell, that's what food is used. But where the actual energy comes from is from light energy. Why this is especially relevant to us over the last 20, 30 years is now with the invention of artificial light, especially blue LED light, we are living most of our life indoors. We are exposed to artificial light, which doesn't supply the entire spectrum of light that your body needs. And we're not getting exposed to as much sun as we need to. And so that means that this energy generation process that melanin does is not being optimized. And this probably explains so many of our modern diseases, because we're not getting the right light input that we should get.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure.
Yeah.
I was introduced with Jack Kruse's work because of tetragrammaton in April 2023, and it kind of changed my life. I get into, because I also want to talk about cholesterol and thyroid problems and the profiteering, the pill uses behind that. But I want to talk more about melanin right now first. Is the melanin that interacts with water, is it both intracellular and extracellular water? And is the extracellular water easy water?
Yeah, so it's the melanin is mostly intracellular. Easy water is also structured through UV light from the sun, and that's how you maintain sharp separation, and that drives a lot. That's how you get blood to your tissues, is through this maintenance of easy water around your membranes. So light is very important in structuring this easy water. Inside the cell, melanin acts on the water inside the cell to change it into charged water, which is actually in the plasma state. So it's different than easy water. Mm-hmm. Gerard Pollack, who wrote about this, easy water, labels it as the fourth phase of water. But he later wrote that, no, it's not actually the easy water, the fourth phase of water. The fourth phase of water, which is plasma, that's what we get inside the cell from what melanin does.
Okay. Recently, I asked you a question on X, and I asked you if all cells have melanin, and is that correct? All cells have melanin?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's not well known, though, is it?
It's not well known. No. Modern medicine just doesn't think about it this way. Modern medicine just thinks of things as biochemistry, molecules and compounds and carbohydrates. It doesn't think to the next level, which is photons, light energy. And the only researcher who's really done some work about this is the author of the Melanin, the Master Molecule book. He's in Mexico. Very good book for people to read. It's not very well written. It needs a lot of editing, but yeah, he goes into research about that. And the interesting thing is melanin is a molecule that you can't really isolate because it has parts of it that are plasma based. So there's no real one molecule that's melanin. There are multiple things that attach to this melanin molecule, and it changes structure based on what it interacts with. So it's very interesting.
Is that because it's typically black and it absorbs all the spectrum?
Yes, and depending on the spectrum that it gets, it changes structure. And the moment you try and isolate it, it breaks down. So
okay. Can you help me understand the differences between melanin, like what's synthesized through tyrosine, and melanocytes?
So melanocytes also have melanin that you see in your skin here, but also that melanin is present in every cell as well. Okay. But that's different than melatonin.
Yeah.
Which is a sleep hormone, not related to melanin.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the differences between like neuromelanin and the other two types of melanin besides the color aspect?
Yeah, it's different. Different tissues have different requirements for how the melanin acts, and so that's how their difference is. And actually, the difference in structures are not so clear because the structure of melanin itself is not clear. So
Yeah.
that's as far as I know about it, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense though. It's very adaptable. It sounds like.
Yes, it's the most fascinating part about this is that this is the easiest way to understand how our bodies are more than just what you eat and what you drink, and how are you sensitive to the energies around you. Why can you tell if someone is staring at you from the background? What is that? Where is that
Mhm.
energy coming from? And this is the power of, call it plasma, call it energy, call it radiance, call it this is how it affects your cell. It affects melanin at a deeper level in every one of our cells.
Okay. The roles within like the uh, circumventricular areas, like this substantia nigra, especially the pars compacta and the locus coeruleus. Um, those are both like midbrain areas, if I'm not mistaken, and that's very key in autism, I think, because the midbrain's main goal is to orient the attention of the living organism to the environment, and obviously autistics struggle with that big time. And I think maybe there's some like relay issues going on there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so in my opinion, autism happens in people that are a little bit blessed to be, their bodies are very sensitive to their environment.
Yeah.
So they are very sensitive to input that they get from their environment. Also, their detox system is not as good as other people, as the rest of us. Uh, you know, our detoxification system currently, uh, they are on hyperdrive compared to when we used to live in nature. So in nature, you weren't exposed to toxins all the time. You're exposed to a toxin if you eat a piece of fruit and it turns out to be rotten, or
Mm.
if some animal has defecated in the water that you eventually drink. This is how you were exposed to toxins. So it wasn't a daily assault of toxins. But now, because we live in a industrialized society where we're exposed to toxins all the time, toxins in food, toxins in water, toxins in the air we breathe, physical toxins as well as energetic toxins like electromagnetic frequencies, all these things. So your detox system is just running on hyperdrive at 10,000 times the levels that it would have in nature. And I think with autistic people, this ability to detoxify isn't as strong as, or the ability to increase the detoxification ability is not as strong as the average Joe. And that's why they struggle more with toxicity, whether
Okay.
it's heavy metal toxicity, food toxicity, or light and electromagnetic frequency toxicity.
Yeah, there's an interesting perspective that post vaccines, obviously the vaccines are a problem with that topic, but before, because autism was here, there's this kind of shift in the environment. I think is the big cause of that, and
Yep.
it's hard to people to kind of zoom out and look at that because all we see now is just the nefarious harms of like this vac schedule and then these rates and so forth. Um, Can you tell me a little bit about, and you can speak on that too, but antioxidants role with melanin, melatonin, and DHA?
Yeah, so melanin is the best antioxidants in the body. You generate melanin from the sun, you are able to detoxify everything, including heavy metals.
Mm.
And so the, the main problem we have right now, we you see all these influencers online telling people you need sun, you need sun, you need sun. It's not because our ancestors, like 100 years ago, people were not in the sun, for 4 hours a day. They stayed indoors, but their levels of exposure to toxins weren't as much as we are today. So we need a lot more antioxidants to deal with all the chemicals we're dealing with, all the EMF we're dealing with, and melanin is the best molecule to do that. And it does that by energetically activating all these detox processes by splitting water for them. It's able to generate more energy for the cell. This is a lot better way of detoxing than, taking it in a pill. Because even any of these antioxidants, including vitamin C, in order to process them, your body requires digestive enzymes, and your body needs kind of energy and enzymes to break it down before they can give any of their antioxidant activities.
Yeah, and then the bioavailability comes in play. How about can you speak a little bit on melatonin's role in mitochondria or no?
Yeah, so melatonin, most people think of melatonin as just the sleep hormone that your body releases in order to get you sleepy. But it's actually a lot more important than that. So 95% of melatonin in the body is made during the day, and is not just made in the brain. It's made in the mitochondria throughout the body. So every mitochondria in your body is making melatonin. And this melatonin is also a very powerful antioxidant agent. And it has anti-cancer properties, helps with cell reproduction and cell growth. So melatonin is very important. You generate melatonin through sun exposure during the day. This is the ultimate way to do it. And, ask anyone who goes to the beach. You feel a lot sleepier at night if you spent the entire day at the beach. And the reason is the sun, your body uses it to generate melatonin the entire day. And by night, you have this huge load of melatonin that helps you sleep. And the more melatonin that you've made during the day, the more it can act as an antioxidant and help cleanse the body while you're sleeping.
Okay.
A very important thing about this too is if you are exposed to artificial light at night after sunset, blue light, it destroys that melatonin that your body was making the entire day. And so that's why there's a lot of people that, feel sleepy, and then the sun goes down, the artificial lights go up, and you no longer feel sleepy. You get this burst of energy at 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. whenever the fake lights come out. And that's because the artificial blue light suppresses melatonin and increases cortisol levels.
Yeah. Through POMC, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that process a little bit?
Yeah, so POMC is a gene in your brain, and it is controlled by the light that you see. And it acts to break down several molecules to generate the most important neurotransmitters that we need, including dopamine, melatonin, norepinephrine, epinephrine. The switchboard to generate these hormones, which modern medicine says nothing about this, is light. So the light that you see controls the hormones that you release. And this entire process, everything in your body, including the generation of testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all the important hormones in the body, that process is controlled by light. Because the genius of the human body, it realizes that this is the metronome of the body. You base everything according to it. There's a certain time where you're more likely going to need to be active. There's more times that you need to be more likely you're going to be sexually active. All these things are timed by light. The problem arises is when we've hijacked the system through exposure to artificial light. You're just under artificial light all the day, that the system doesn't know how to function, and that's when malfunctions happen.
Timing. Cortisol, people think about cortisol as a stress response or stress hormone, but it's more a vehicle to distribute energy molecules across the body.
Yes, 100%. I mean, you need cortisol for all sorts of functions in the body, and it's the timing of it, the peaks of it that matters, and it's not just. It has important functions throughout the day.
Yeah, it's anti-correlated with melatonin.
Yes,
So
a main yeah, a main problem we have these days is at night, because of artificial light exposure, our cortisol levels just go up because when you're exposed to blue light does not exist. Blue light in nature only comes from the sun. So for us, when we see blue light, that means that the sun is out. Our biology for thousands of years have evolved under in an environment where the only blue light we were exposed to was from the sun. All of a sudden, you've gotten this blue light and it's indoors available 24/7. And what happens if you turn on those artificial blue lights after sunset in your house is all of a sudden your body just sees this blue light and oh, it's noon again. So what does it do when it's noon? What do you need to do when it's noon? You need energy in order to keep on with your day. So your body just releases this cortisol. At the same time, when it's noon, you don't need melatonin. Melatonin is for sleep, so it suppresses the synthesis of melatonin. And all of a sudden, you are back and up again and up and awake. And that's why a lot of people have issues with sleep. And even if they do fall asleep, the quality of the sleep is a lot poorer because your cortisol is high, so you're waking up at night a lot, and the melatonin is low, so you're not getting into the deep states of sleep, the deep detoxifying states of sleep.
yeah, there's no recovery. There's no reset. It's like
There's no reset. Yeah, and I've seen it in a lot of autistic patients that their sleep cycles also tend to be pretty off,
yeah,
and that all goes with the entire circadian biology mismatch.
yeah. Well, I really wouldn't mind circling back to the electron transport chain because what light is electromagnetic. Can you talk a little bit about the roles of that light and the electrons and the protons, as you mentioned, in that oxidative phosphorylation or the electron transport chain? And
Yes, very
the red
important.
light?
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
The not only is light acting on melanin, which generates the energy for the cell, this oxidative phosphorylation, which breaks down food and breaks down ATP, which generate currents for the entire cell for how cell membranes operate, and it controls the energy of generating new carbohydrates, proteins, fats to regenerate cells and regenerate tissue. This oxidative phosphorylation process happens through these compounds called cytochromes. Cytochromes are specific ion channels that control the flow of ions in this oxidative phosphorylation. Because what the process is and what all chemical reactions are transfers of electrons. And these cytochromes, they're actually light sensitive. So they are more efficient when they're exposed to red light, and they are less efficient when they're exposed to blue light. So that's why your your ability to generate energy in the cell is optimized when you're exposed to sunlight, and it is worsened if you are just exposed to blue light on its own. These cytochromes, the worst thing for them is being exposed to blue light in isolation because that didn't exist in nature. The blue light in nature always existed with either UV light or red and infrared light. So the cytochromes work best when they've given the entire spectrum, not when they're given blue light in isolation. That makes the entire energy generation process ineffective. And that's actually another way that free radicals accumulate, is when this oxidative phosphorylation process is not as efficient as it should be.
ROS.
Correct.
And is that one of the roles of melanin? And definitely, it seems like melatonin in the matrix is a
Yes. Getting rid of these reactive oxygen species. And so if you have to be exposed to blue light, say at work or from screens, make sure you're also getting a lot of sunlight, because that will help you get rid of all these reactive oxygen species, all these free radicals that were generated because of the artificial light exposure.
Okay. And then I like to kind of reverse engineer ATP synthase. You talked about the electron transport chain, but before that is the TCA cycle, which, if I'm not mistaken, the sunlight will help make it more catabolic because it's also anabolic. And whenever it's not, let's say, and I'm just kind of loosely talking here, if it is catabolic, is there a different level of efficiency that it spins at? And if it's slowed down, even though it's catabolic, it can still create bottlenecks, because there's a lot of bottlenecks happening within the matrix.
Yes. This entire process is a lot more efficient if you're exposed to the right light and you give it the right fuel in food. And clogs in the system are fake light, toxins, bad food. They're all just making this energy generation process less efficient. And this is a fundamentally much deeper way of looking at disease. It's not just an issue of, oh, it's a heart dysfunction. No, it's an issue with mitochondria and energy generation throughout the body, but it's just manifesting in the heart. Autism is an issue with energy generation throughout the cell, but it's manifesting in brain and brain patterns and brain. So that's the way to think about it, and that's the way you heal the body completely.
Yeah. All of these, we view things downstream and they all look confusing. But if you go upstream to these electrons and protons and so forth, it starts to make a lot more sense. It's just the disease will show up, like the heart disease and so forth, which might be a good topic to talk about, because I want to talk about cholesterol, the shifts in guidelines, and the use of statins. And still, one of the leading causes of death is heart disease and heart attacks, even though everybody's medicated for this.
Yep. Yeah. I'll give you the long story. Cholesterol is probably one of the biggest scams in the history of medicine, if not the biggest scam. In the 1950s, there was an increasing rate of heart disease and heart attacks in the US. All the brightest scientists went out there to try and figure out what the cause was. Then came this researcher by the name of Ansel Keys, and he did a study where he plotted the rate of saturated animal fat intake and heart attacks for 7 countries, and he showed that as there is an increase in rate of eating animal fats, also did the rate of heart disease. This study was like a revelation then, because people thought, oh, we finally discovered what the cause of all these heart attacks is. It's because people are eating too much butter, too much full milk, too much meat, too much fat. Later, many years later, Keys admitted that he omitted many countries from his study just so the results fit the model. So he was searching for that answer. And the reason the study became so popular, it was because it was taken up by 2 important industries. The first one is the vegetable seed oil manufacturers, who made a lot of money making cheap vegetable seed oils from plant seeds that people don't use. And they used the cholesterol hypothesis as a way to convince people that stop eating butter, stop eating lard. Instead, you should just use processed vegetable seed oils. And, they made huge amounts of money that way. And they gave money back to all the dietary guideline societies, any researcher that will keep propagating this animal fat is bad idea. Okay? So that was the first people to use that. The second was the cholesterol medication pharmaceutical companies made. So in the 1950s and 60s, there was this, it's called the Framingham study. It was based in Massachusetts. And it was basically like a very healthy community that people, researchers started following to see if there are patterns of which people developed heart disease, which people developed cancer, etc. And the initial results from the 50s and 60s showed that people with high cholesterol were at a higher risk of getting heart attacks. And so again, people jumped on that conclusion, and the processed food industry jumped on it. In the 1970s, statins, drugs which were based on a fungal toxin, fungus made this toxin that they saw lowers cholesterol in rats. So they started using it in people to lower their blood cholesterol. They started pushing this medication as, so if high cholesterol leads to heart disease, then this is the cure. The studies that they used in order to push statins, if you analyze them, like carefully analyze the statistics in them, you see that the results were very exaggerated. There wasn't that much of a benefit from using statins. And all of the myriad side effects that statins cause, these studies just ignore them. Okay? And so all of a sudden, you have statins become the highest selling drug class in history. And it was the first drug in history to be prescribed just based on a blood test. You go to your doctor, they find that your cholesterol is high, now you qualify for medication. So as a business model, it's quite genius, but how much it helps people, not so much.
Yeah. I, of course, being my age and health risk, was prescribed statins, and I took them for a couple of years, and I don't take them anymore. And my lipid panel is so-called abnormal for the guidelines, such as, I'll just share, LDL is like 220, 250, but everything else is pretty much okay. The ratio is not good because of that higher LDL, but the ratio guidelines suck. Like the triglycerides are good and everything, but the studies out of like Harvard recently, LMHR, I think, lean mass hyperactive reactivity or something. I don't know. It's like, it seems like they're on it more so than the guidelines are on it. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, some of these guidelines have changed too since like the 70s, like your LDL rates or your blood pressure rates and so forth.
It's a very very effective model where, so if you say that abnormal blood pressure is above 160 over 100, then you have maybe 5% of the population that qualifies for blood pressure medications. If 10 years later you lower it to 140 over 80, then you have 25% of the population that can qualify for medications. So you are increasing your revenue astronomically. And they did the same thing for LDL, which is the so-called bad cholesterol. They kept lowering the threshold so that more and more people can qualify for medications. Again, modern medicine is corrupt. So the societies that set these guidelines are directly funded by pharmaceutical companies. And this is just how this propagates and keeps happening.
The guidelines always come or change post hoc. Like they create this environment or these conditions, and suddenly more and more people are kind of fit into that, and then they'll change the guidelines. That's true also in autism. That's why the autism is, there's so much money behind autism. So the more go ahead.
Yeah. To go back into your LDL values, actually, studies that eventually the Framingham studies, the results that came back after that in the 70s and 80s showed that actually people with higher cholesterol and higher LDL had higher longevity than people with lower cholesterol. And it makes sense because, your brain feeds on cholesterol. And most of us people die in older age because of dementia, because of other brain condition or nervous system conditions.
The rates of dementia is very concerning too, and I think tied to your light story.
Yes, light is a very important player in dementia. Cholesterol medications, statins, are also lead to memory loss. There's a very good book about this called Statin, the Thief of Memory. Very
Mhm.
interesting book that this doctor who he was actually a he was a doctor in NASA, and so he would go to he was an astronomist in astronaut in NASA, and he would go to the he went for a routine medical at NASA, and they told him, "Oh, your cholesterol is high. You need to be put on a statin." So he takes the medication. All
Mm.
of a sudden, he starts getting these episodes where he just forgets everything. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know his wife. Doesn't know anything around him. And his wife is like, "Do you think this might be related to the medication? Just stop it." So he goes and stops it, and the episodes stop. He again goes to his doctor. His doctor's like, "No, your numbers are dangerous. You need to be put back on it. Memory issues unrelated." These memory issues start to happen again. And so he stops the statins, and then he writes the book about it. And I see it in my practice so often. Like, so many of the dementia patients have been on statins for, 40, 50 years.
Mm.
And that's the reason why their memory is so bad. And like, I have a personal experience where my grandfather was put on a statin without me knowing. And I go to visit him. It's only been like a week since he's been on it. And he was a completely different human being. He was unaware of what was happening. He would try and drink from a cup even though there's nothing in the cup. Like, he was really losing it. And my family was freaking out. He was in his 80s. So I just looked and I figured out he was put on this medication, and I stopped it. And the next day he was better.
It's
Immediately.
that fast. It's that fast. And also, if I'm not mistaken, the statins implicate ubiquinol or CoQ10 and cytochrome 2. Maybe that's, yeah, it helps cytochrome 2 feed into cytochrome 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, how statins work is that they block this important pathway in the body called the melanin pathway. And this is the pathway that generates cholesterol eventually. But it also generates so many important compounds in the body, like CoQ10, like so many other compounds in the cell, so many hormones. And all of a sudden, you're losing all of that when you're put on statins. And so the cell's ability to generate energy at a very fundamental level is affected when people are put on statins.
Okay. Maybe even with the sodium potassium pumps. And
Yep.
okay, it sounds like maybe that was the case because the cells aren't having those ion reactions.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about let's see. You said earlier like the heart problems really increased in 1950s. Do you know any environmental cause or maybe some reasons why? Because I wrote down here, was it like the CFL lights?
Yeah. So, in general, diseases started in general with the invention of the artificial bulb. This was the end of the 19th century.
Yeah.
Just even the incandescent bulb, that still wasn't good because people were exposed to a lot of fake light at night. So that was the beginning. Vegetable seed oils were also invented in the 50s, 60s. So that was another player. And also this isn't talked about enough, but the increased electrification of just life in general, the increased amount of electromagnetic frequencies we're exposed to, that
Mm.
also shut up at that time. So it's hard to pinpoint which one of these is the
Mm.
direct player, but all of them combined are the reasons we live in, are the reasons diseases increased in that century.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking about diet and big food. Big food is no different than like big tech or big corp or centralized government, I don't think. They're just so powerful.
They're very powerful, and it again ties to the money problem, where once we separated off the gold standard in the US, all of a sudden, what happened is people lost a lot of their purchasing power. So government kept printing money. So that means your money is less valuable. So how would the government try and hide that so that they can continue their money printing agenda? Because, when they print money, the money goes to them. It doesn't come to you and me. All of a sudden, groceries started becoming more and more expensive. A pound of meat went from £1 to $1 to $5. And how do they hide that? Well, they did a very smart thing, which is to convince people that, oh, no, you don't need to eat meat and full fat milk and butter. Eat this processed crap that's very cheap to make. And so your $1 now can still buy you cheap vegetable seed oil, but it can't buy you butter. But if they tell you that butter is bad for you, that's a way they can hide the effects of inflation.
That goes back to the mitochondria story, I think, because butter is very powerful for generating ATP, more so than any other food. Fats, then proteins, and then carbohydrates are last. Because I think the glycolysis process is 9 little steps there just to make the pyruvate. And 1 gram of carbohydrate, I think, only makes 36 ATP. And it's a very long process, the carbohydrate. And it's very cheap food.
Very cheap food. You're replacing it with the vegetable seed oils. And what vegetable seed oils do is they actually replace the fatty acids in your own cell membranes and in your own mitochondrial membranes. And so your entire balance of energy in the cell depends on proper gradients in the cell. And if you mess it up by eating too many of these processed hydrogenated vegetable seed oils, you're unable to generate energy as efficiently in the cell. And that's why vegetable seed oils are so dangerous, and they affect every part of the body.
Huge connection with sunburning and melanoma.
100%.
Yeah,
there's no really direct studies showing how vegetable seed oils lead to sunburn in humans. But there are studies showing that mice exposed to artificial or fed vegetable seed oils are more easily get UV damage in their skin. And it's because, their cell membranes are replaced by less sturdy cell membranes.
Okay. Can you tell me, as a practicing medical doctor, the kind of the push-pull tactic of medicine and health insurance?
It's quite complex, actually, but the most important thing to know about this is in healthcare, you are no longer the customer. The patient is no longer the customer. The hospital gets paid from the insurance company, so they don't really care about what you think of their service. They only care about how to package this so that the insurance company pays them. Okay, so it's like you're just a participant in this process, but you're not actually the client. So whether you get better, whether you're impressed by the service, the doctor and the hospital don't care. They just care about what the insurance company thinks. On another level, the way insurance companies work is that they get a certain copay or percentage from whatever medical bill that you end up getting. So the hospital benefits from you having a very high bill because they're going to get that money from the insurance company. But actually, the insurance company itself also benefits from that bill being high, because what the insurance company ends up making is, say, 2% of the bill. So they want that bill to be higher. And so if in most people, their insurance doesn't cover everything in the bill, the copay that they end up paying is just so high because it benefits both the hospital and the insurance company for their bill to be expensive.
So just like earlier with the money problem, how do we get out of that?
The reason the system is so big is because, again, it's centrally planned They're just the biggest payer for insurance in the US is the US government, through Medicare, through Medicaid, through Social Security. So dismantling this enormous government through, when you stop powering them with their US dollars and instead go into Bitcoin, this will just make that system a lot smaller, so that we then go back into a system where you pay your doctor directly. And when you pay your doctor directly, which a lot of clinics are starting to do, you are liable to the patient, and you want what's good for them, and that attracts more of these patients to you. Patients want to come to the doctor that actually cares about them, rather than just cares about having the insurance company be happy.
That kind of makes sense. I do psychology, and a lot of psychologists will just rather do self-pay instead
Yes.
of, yeah, and they love it. They absolutely love
Yes.
it because they don't have to mess around with the insurance.
It's a messy game. It's a really messy game, and there's a clinic in Oklahoma. It's called the Surgical Clinic of Oklahoma or something like that. That charges people a fixed rate for a procedure. So it's a hysterectomy is $5,000. That's it. Even the complications, they would pay for it afterwards. So in that way, the doctors are favored not to have complications, and at the same time, you as a patient know what you're signing up for, and if you don't like the surgeon, you're gonna give them a bad review, and people won't come back to it. You're not forced to use that physician because your insurance company tells you to do so.
Mm.
Because in most cases, that's how doctors get business, is through their insurance companies.
Yeah.
And
It's like, do you accept my insurance? That's how we find our doctors, find doctors in the network.
And doctors, hospitals have contracts with insurance companies, and hospitals have certain contracts with certain companies, and it's just a mess. It's not a free market.
Mm. Is there anything else you'd like to add about autism in your history, or anything that we haven't covered?
Yeah, I think. I think an important thing for autism is light exposure, getting a lot of sun, fixing the sleep. I think it's very easy for people with autism to get into the scrolling mindset and just keep scrolling their day away. And because there's a dopamine hit that you get every time you scroll, and people should be very aware of that. Make sure that you're only scrolling a particular time for a particular period of time. Limits on how long applications are allowed on your phone. All these things are going to help balance the neurotransmitters in your brain, so that you're more effective talking to people, communicating with people, working, focusing on your work rather than just focusing on scrolling.
Yeah. Circadian rhythm is very important. This is a foundation of life. It doesn't matter what, if it's autism, if it's whatever.
Yeah.
Circadian biology is foremost.
Yeah, and also, diet is very important. I know a lot of autistic people that really don't care about their diet. That's a very important place to start. You don't have to go too extreme. You don't have to go carnivore or keto. Something like the paleo diet is very simple to apply. Mm-hmm. Cut out processed foods, cut out sugar, cut out vegetable seed oils, and you'll immediately feel an improvement in your mental and physical health.
Yeah. 100% of autistics have some sort of problem with gastrointestinal tract.
Yes.
And that's often the biggest help, is fixing the gastrointestinal tract.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, Dr. Ammous, I appreciate you joining, and it was very fascinating conversating with you on X, because I've learned so much, and I want to keep learning from you.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate you having me.
I would like to take a moment and mention a pressing issue we are seeing in our modern world, and that is tech use and tech light. The data are impressive and concerning on isolated wavelengths of light, especially shorter wavelengths, which is blue light. For those that don't know, we have chromophores, which are special proteins that absorbs specific wavelengths of light. For blue light, the light that is LED light and tech light, that protein is called melanopsin. Melanopsin is responsible for our circadian biology, physiology and cell functioning, hormone regulation, and even a connection to an area huge for mood. A consideration we should include is this protein was not even discovered until 1998. It seems important for us to understand how our biology uses the different wavelengths of light for various aspects of our biology. This blue light chromophore is our master controller, our master clock. Remember, circadian rhythm is a two-part process, two independent parts, light and dark. For a quick reference, see the 2017 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. But for now, I have something exciting. I want to introduce a product unlike any other product available. A highlight is the product from Daylight Computer Company created their product based on these factors. The Daylight computer is completely blue light free. It has no flicker. Short wavelength flicker is extremely harmful for our eyes and downstream biology. Light flicker is constantly turning our central nervous system on and off. Essentially, it is like going to a light switch and repeatedly turning it on and off. The problem is, blue light and LED light does this, and it is so rapid you cannot even perceive this in real time. The Daylight computer is the lowest stimulation and foremost for sensory sensitive users. It is no question that the alternative product, especially when used at night, do not address or consider this in their product. It is so toxic to human biology. Big tech corporations have patents on how their short wavelengths implicate the human nervous system. And a bonus, despite Daylight computer not having backlight, it is very functional for outdoor use. And of course, increased sunlight is always preferred. I am happy to offer a discount for the Daylight computer. You can use the code AUTISM for a $50 off discount. Again, use the code AUTISM and the discount code for $50 off. See the link in the show notes to Daylight Computer Company, or just give it a quick search in your internet browser. Use the code AUTISM for $50 off. I would like to mention Chroma, lights designed for humans. Chroma, a Seattle-based innovator founded by ex-NASA and Air Force engineer Michael Shapiro, is on a mission to enhance physical and mental health with purpose-built devices, unlocking peak human health, cognitive function, and performance. Shapiro launched Chroma to restore the natural light lost to screens in indoor living and delivers faster recovery, sharper minds, and better sleep. Their products hit hard. The Iron Forge speeds muscle repair with red and near-infrared light, while the Skylight mimics sunlight to boost sleep and energy. A standout, the Forge lamp, is a portable gem that fires 660 nanometer and 850 nanometer light to energize mitochondria and heal tissues on the go. Remember the 4 red light chromophores on Cytochromes Oxidase, frequently talked about in the podcast. This is why. Their products are built with military-grade durability that have lasting impact. Chroma's tech fuses precision and power. Gallium titride power supplies, smaller, cooler, and stronger than silicone. Provide flicker-free light that's easy on the eyes. High-powered LEDs target key wavelengths for skin, tissue, and cellular health, with smart heat management for the lasting impact. Every design decision Chroma makes serves a purpose: to create devices that are precise, durable, and effective for improving human life. Remember, humans use different wavelengths of light for different functions of life. Remember when I ask, what do you think light is? Chroma designs with our biology in mind, from sleep aids and wound healing to mitochondrial energy, full body lights and blue light blocking glasses. They are US made and Chroma ships globally and accepts FSA and HSA payments. Use Autism at checkout for a 10% off discount. That's Autism at checkout for a 10% off discount.